Well, thanks for having us. This is kind of a cool setup and a fun day. I'm honored here to be here on stage with Mike. Mike has a unique business. He sells sunglasses, but he sells good sunglasses. And when I came to Children's Home, one of the first things you do is you look and you check all your supporters out. And you look and you tie them to dollars and all of that. And Mike Dalton's name kept coming up. And it had been, I looked back and it was year after year after year. And this is now the 18th year. And what's neat about Maui Gym is it's not just one guy, it's the culture. So one of the first things I did was called Mike, and I said, if you can just give me an hour, I'd just like to ask you a few questions. And this really has nothing to do with money, even though we receive at Children's Home dollars from the Maui Gym Classic and other things throughout the year. The question I asked him was, why? Why do you do what you do? And I think that's the most important thing, whether it's a corporation or an individual or a family, to ask why. So as I was digging through and looking at all of the things that Maui Gym does for Children's Home, the one you hear about the most is the Golf Classic. But at Halloween time, all of the staff at Maui Gym, they turn Maui Gym headquarters into a haunted house. And all of the kids, we have 1,500 kids that flow through Children's Home a month. The kids come out to Maui Gym, and all of the staff line up, and these kids get bags and bags worth of stuff. Then Mike throws them a pizza party, and each kid doesn't just get a slice, he gets a whole pizza. And then at holiday time, all of the staff at Maui Gym get together, and they pool dollars, their own dollars. And we collect gifts and dollars that go to, last year, 2,200 kids in our area. So it's not just the Golf Classic, which we love, but it's also the culture embedded at Maui Gym. And with that, I introduce Mike Dalton from Maui Gym.
Is Nikki Cole out there? Nikki, when Matt asked me to come and speak today, he said it's going to be short, it's going to be 10, 15 minutes. He said, you'll be able to do it off the cuff, don't worry about it. It's not that big a deal. I said, no problem. And then I started getting emails from Nikki about not what to say, but how to say it, right? Things like projecting emotion, enhancing your language, adding humor, mastering your verbal delivery, managing your nonverbal delivery, moving around the stage, right? I got done and I called up Matt and I said, this is going to be a little more difficult than I thought. My next question was, do we get graded on it? No, nobody's grading you. And I said, I bet you Nikki is. Don't memorize your speech. Later on, 3 days ago, another list came, the 10 Commandments of Public Speaking. I'm like, oh my God, I just had the other stuff figured out. Nikki, you do a great job. I just had to, it was pretty humorous. My assistant and I were she'd walk into my office, she goes, Mr. D, you got more work to do. Hey, when we start a meeting at our company, we start it with one word, and we'll do that here. Aloha. Okay, some of you got it. Some of you were a little like, oh, I'm not sure about this. Am I supposed to respond? Aloha. Nice. Really nice. How many of you have been to Hawaii? Ooh, lots. How many have bought Maui gyms in Hawaii? Oh, shit. How many of them gotten free at something around town? There we go. But to most people that don't really know the Hawaiian culture, aloha simply means hello, goodbye, and a whole lot of other small little things along the way. But the reality of it is, it's actually a law. One of the few good ones our lawyers or our elected officials seem to be able to pass, but it's a law. It says that all citizens of Hawaii must at all times live with aloha. But how do you live with something if you don't know exactly what it means? Right? And so you can go on the web. So we do everything now, right? If you don't know, go to the web. My daughter got engaged. I went to the web. What's his name? Where is he from? And you could look up the real meaning of it. And it's, most companies have a mission statement. They have, lots of different things. We just have what we call 4 pillars. And I'm not going to go through all 4 of our pillars. I'm going to spend a little time on the main one, and that's aloha. And it means to give and to never expect anything in return. It means every day to attempt the coordination of your mind and your heart. Not an easy thing, is it? How many times do you, hey, I want to do this, and then that little voice comes. Yeah, not so sure about that, right? But when those 2 things are functioning in unison, those are great days, right? No? Yeah? And the reason you want that, and we strive for that, is because then and only then can you really emit good feelings to everybody that you associate with during that day. And the final sort of tenet that we live by, aloha, it's the understanding that in life we're all connected and we're dependent upon each other for our mutual well-being. We're all connected and we're dependent upon each other for our mutual well-being. Whether that's your family, whether that's your business, or whether that's your community. We can't have a successful business here if we don't have a successful community. We couldn't attract the people we want. We couldn't hire the people that we need, right? And it's the understanding also that we're all connected, dependent upon each other for our mutual well-being. And the last one is that we're only as strong as the weakest amongst us. Think of your home, think of your business, think of your community. Only as strong. In business, if we have somebody in shipping and picking that's not doing things right, not packing the right packages, right? Not getting the right things in the box at the right time, doesn't matter what the other 1,100 people in the company are doing, we're in trouble. In a community, we're only as strong as the weakest amongst us. And Matt, in the children's home, in my mind, deal with some of the weakest that we have in our community. Right now, statistics tell us, right now, within a mile of where we are, children are being abused. Right now. Physically, emotionally, sexually. Who are the perpetrators? Moms, dads, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters. In my mind, it's man's greatest inhumanity to man. The very people that these young children depend on are abusing them. If you see somebody breaking into a home, you dial 911, right? You see a car accident, you dial 911. What if somebody comes home, one of your kids, one day and says, you know, I think my friend Tommy isn't being treated? Who do you call? Or do you just stay quiet? And it's hard. It hides. Abuse hides. Because most children go home, a lot of them, to what appears on the outside to be a normal home. Nice little house, little garage, right? Come home from school, got their lunch pail, walk in. Walk in the front door, right? And then the horror starts. It knows no social or economic boundary. Abuse does not discriminate. It affects all classes of people. It's similar to drug abuse or alcoholism. And when it's discovered, there's a lot of shame up and down the family tree. I didn't know. I had no idea. And most of them, when discovered, who goes to help? Who walks into these homes, rescues these kids? The children's home. It was easy for Maui Jim and myself to become involved. If you truly believe we're only as strong as the weakest amongst us. 17 years ago, we started a charity golf event. Little funny anecdote here. We had to actually go to the children's home. Matt wasn't there then. And we had to sell them on the idea of allowing us the honor, it's a true story, of hosting and managing a charity golf event. And I couldn't figure it out. Like most of the time, those of you in fundraising, you'd be all over that, right? Like, whoa, sign me up. And we sort of got the cold shoulder. They said, well, look, thank you, we appreciate it. Of course, we were a small company then. Most people thought we were a gym where you go to work out. They didn't know what was going on. They said, we're going to have a board meeting and we're going to talk about it. Wow. But what had happened is the year before, they'd had a charity golf event and they'd got some ex-football players involved, and I think things got way, way, way out of hand. And we're very grateful and thankful that, in the end, they saw the light, and they allowed us to start to host this charity golf event, which we now, this year will be our 18th annual, and we've raised already between $6 and $7 million. All of the money dedicated to the children's home to help the abused children in our community. And it was interesting to me when we got involved in that the participants, I mean, this is not your Chamber of Commerce golf event. No offense to the Chamber, but I mean, this is $10,000 a foursome. It's not inexpensive. But we could run two of them, and we have so many people on our waiting list. But what was more surprising to me was over the years the stories that I have been told by participants, doctors, lawyers, business leaders, and they've told it to me in confidence, but it was still amazing to me because some of them have been touched by our very own children's home. Some of them had uncles, grandfathers, other family members who had received the help of the children's home. And I think all of us, if we were to spend some time and go up and down our family tree, and hopefully yours is nice and wide and not too narrow. It's a healthy thing. That was a joke. I mean, come on. That you would probably find somewhere at some point, maybe not this generation, maybe the one before, maybe the one before that we all have people that either got help or could have used the help of an association, an agency like the Children's Home. One of the stories that was told was particularly interesting to me. At our event, it was about a young family. Backdrop is England, World War II. Three kids, orphaned. And for those of you that are old enough, that was a horrific war. And so in England at the time, every able-bodied man and woman was involved in the war effort, right? Either at war, fighting, in the factories building things, or in the hospitals trying to repair and fix the injured. It didn't leave too many other people around to do the other work that had to get done. And so as humanity sometimes does, it comes up with some weird things. And so in England at the time, they said, right, got some orphans. No other family members around. They let farmers establish orphanages out in the country. Kind of got a nice ring to it, right? Get the kids out of the city, out in the English countryside, in an orphanage. But these orphanages were not the loving, caring sort of things that the Children's Home is. And not all, but most, were internments. They were work farms. The kids were labor. They stuffed them in the barn, fed them only what they had to, worked them 14, 15 hours a day. So these two girls and this young boy were in one of these farms. And they got to the point where they couldn't take it anymore. 15, 13, and 11. So they ran away. Good thing to do. Of course, three kids during World War II walking down the roads in England kind of get noticed rather quickly. So it wasn't long before they were picked up, brought back in the same old place again. Wasn't long, they devised a new plan. We're going to break out of here, only this time we're separating. More chance that we'll get away. And they did. Young girl ran one way, the other young girl ran another way, and the young boy took off for the ocean. And he'd heard about the war, so he climbed onto a boat when nobody was looking, stowed underneath, brought him to France, where upon landing and unloading, they discovered him, and of course they shipped him right back again. And they tried to get him up to the orphanage again, and he ran away before they ever got there. And he was found in the city of London eating out of the garbage. By an agency like the Children's Home. They cared for him. He was there 10 months. Not much to do. They had a set of encyclopedias that he read from front to back, waiting, because he knew he had a distant relative in Canada, but it took time during that time in our history to track them down. But they were able to track him down, and they took him. And he came across to Canada on the Queen Mary. Of course, he was an orphan. So he didn't get his own room, didn't get to share a room. He had to climb down into the pool, which was empty, and into a cot every night for the trip across. He got in, went to live with his aunt in Ontario, started school. Didn't really agree with him. Took off, lied about his age, joined the Navy, Canadian Navy. They had one then. And later on got married, had 6 kids, rose to the level of commander, went to school at night, got his master's. Had a successful life. 25 years later, after he had come, he went back. Because you remember having 2 sisters. And he tracked them down. Got them together. Only one little problem. He'd been studying the genealogy, following the family tree, right? And when he was together with his sisters, the youngest one thought she was X amount of years old, and all his research had told him that she was actually something X plus. So he studied all his notes, went back the next day, they were together again, and he said, "Sissies, I got some bad news." He said, "You're actually 4 years older than you think you are." Think about that one. Huh? And while they were there in the orphanages, they were obviously abused. My dad told me years later that his favorite part of the day was feeding the pigs. I knew my dad liked horses, but other than that, I didn't think, a big fan of animals. So I said, "Dad," I said, "pigs?" He said, "Son, it's when I got to eat." That also explained to me why at all family functions, we always had twice as much food as we needed. Right? Never wanted to go hungry. See, just like my dad, the kids that Matt and a children's home take care of. Don't want your pity. They don't want your sympathy. They want and need what all kids want: love, hope, and opportunity. Only it's not that easy. See, abuse, it is medical, but it's not, right? There are no pills. There's no x-ray machines to cure it. There's no MRIs. There's no surgeries. You see, their souls are scarred, some of them for life. It takes years and years, and a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of patience. Matt does a great job with these kids from Kiefer out to the youth farm, and then from there into some individual living scenarios, but then only for a few years before the state cuts that off. I encourage all of you who are business leaders out there to get a hold of Matt and to look at some of these kids. They've come a long way. And out at Maui Gym, we've actually hired a number of them. They're full-time contributing employees of our company, full benefits, retirement, everything, and they're doing great jobs. But it's only through us all getting involved and helping the weakest amongst us can we be stronger. So I encourage all of you to really get to know your donors, peel back the onion. You never know what you might find. Thank you.
Thank you.